I don't even have anything witty for this. It's the days of conventional consoles are mostly coming to an end. And here is more proof of that.
I just wanted some sauce on those zingers.
Hey everybody, real quick, shameless plug. I have a new ASMR video uploaded to my ASMR channel called Tech25 ASMR. Make sure you go sub there. There'll be a link below in the description and a top pinned comment. Also, make sure you sub to this channel. Subscribe here because I have live streams here all the time, and they're good ones. I like them. I approve of my own live streams, which is a little bit narcissistic to say, but anyway. So throughout basically my entire life, it started to change during the 8th generation. One of the reasons that you went out and bought a console is due to its exclusives. You knew that if you wanted to play Uncharted, Ratchet and Clank, God of War, you would play on PlayStation. If you wanted to play Halo or Gears of War, you would play on Xbox. If you wanted to play Mario and The Legend of Zelda, you would play on a Nintendo console, which with Nintendo is still the case. But times are changing. This has kind of been a thing with Xbox since the 8th generation, where they were really trying to push their games not just on their consoles, but on other platforms. I always argue that that was way too early, and I think they're still pushing the games as a service thing too much too early, but nonetheless, that's what they're doing. They even had some major layoffs in the Xbox division recently, and we've seen that Microsoft is releasing their first-party games everywhere, even on PlayStation. like you could play Forza on PlayStation. You could play Indiana Jones, the game developed by Machine Games, which is also under Microsoft's umbrella, on PlayStation, on PC, on Steam. If you have PC Game Pass or Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, you could play it on PC as well. You could play games everywhere. And that's because companies are realizing that you have tons of ways to play. Like, for example, I have a Lenovo Legion Go S Steam Edition behind me, which I'm also going to be reviewing on the ASMR channel. There's another shameless plug for you, link below. And development costs are astronomical, and they need to make returns, and trying to make those returns back just on your hardware to Sony and Microsoft isn't enough. They need other avenues to make the money. And on top of it too, people aren't just happy with just, okay, I'm just going to have this console at home and I'm going to have their portable version of it like a PSP. You know, if you think back to the PS2 days, the whole industry is kind of evolving and changing. And it's no longer the, okay, there's a new console generation and we know the exclusives coming to this hardware and you could only play them there. And the same with this piece of hardware, there's going to be exclusives, you can only play them there. Those days are pretty much dead. And Sony's jumping on that bandwagon too. It's not just Microsoft anymore. This comes from gamingbible.com. Sony's vice president confirmed that PlayStation is no longer interested in being a first-party publisher. Sony held their Q1 2026 earnings call, and during this call, Sony's VP, Sadahiko Hawakawa, I think I actually said that right, was asked about their recent partnership with Bandai Namco, and he revealed that PlayStation is midway through a transition away from a hardware-centric business model. Here's a quote from him: "In the gaming business, we are moving away from a hardware-centric business model more to a platform business that expands the community and increases engagement." And increases revenue for them. Let's just call a spade a spade. Now, Sony's chief financial officer, Lin Tao, said the reason that they are focusing more on software going to other platforms is that because in fiscal year 2025, Q1, sales increased 8% year on year, primarily due to an increase in third-party software sales. Now, I get that Sony sees that software is selling on other platforms, but I just am so curious. We saw the damage that Microsoft did. I have an Xbox here, a Series X right in front of me, did to their 9th gen consoles by just saying, all right, yeah, we have hardware, but you could play our games everywhere. I'm amazed to see that they're being so bullish about this. Yes, I see the numbers are there, but now that you're telling people, hey, you could play our first party exclusives essentially anywhere, even if we trickle them out and you have to wait a little bit, What's the incentive to be in your walled garden of hardware? Why wouldn't I just play games? And this isn't even like a pro PC thing. It's just a common sense thing. If I know that I could have one handheld, or I have a gaming PC here, box that could play everything from every company, mostly, again, except for Nintendo. They're still going by the old school rule book, which I like. I'll give them that. What the hell's the point of owning a console? Why would you limit yourself to owning a console when you could have so many other options on a different platform? It just makes no sense. And I always think of weird things like this too. I had an ROG Ally X. I was on vacation, and I needed to get a video done. There was a big story that broke that I was actually interested in talking about. You know what I did? Because I didn't have a laptop with me. I edited 4K video on the ROG Ally X. I'm not saying you're going to do that, but you understand what I mean. Why, especially if there's no exclusives, would you limit yourself to a certain box when you could play what that certain box will play somewhere else and have more freedom with it? There was always the argument that back in the day, consoles were easier, which they still are mostly. They're you turn them on, they automatically update. PCs have come a long way and are not too far behind. And this used to be a more relevant point that I just said. But nonetheless, consoles are still easy. But the key thing that made people buy hardware from Sony and Microsoft is that I could only play this game here. If you wanted to play the original Gears of War back in the day, you could only play it on the Xbox 360. Well, it did come to PC, but you get my point. Like, if you wanted to play Halo 3 for many, many years until the Master Chief Collection came out, guess where you had to play it? You had to play it on an Xbox. If you wanted to play The Last of Us, I'm talking about the first version on the PS3, until they remastered it and brought it to PC much later on, you had to play it on either the PS3, PS4, or PS5. You had to play it on Sony's hardware. It's no longer the case. So if there is no must-have game that you could only play on a specific piece of hardware, what the hell is the point of owning that hardware? If all the games are going to be, you're going to play the same games on your Xbox that you're going to play in your PS5, that you're going to play in your PC, why would you just get a piece of hardware that you're still limited? It actually limits you and holds you back from the amount of games you could play when exclusives are a non-issue now, or mostly becoming a non-issue. I don't know. I just don't, you have the huge, what did Microsoft across the board lay off? About 9,000 people. I believe I'm correct about that. Times are changing, and then you combine together, which is a much grimmer picture, what's going on with AI replacing jobs. Story for another video. But we're at a turning point, not just in the gaming industry, but across technology worldwide. And it's going to be interesting to see where things land. But the days of having to own a console to play games you can't play anywhere else are all but dead. And here's a perfect example of it. It'll be interesting to see where Sony and Microsoft are with their hardware in about 10 years, if they're even still making hardware. This is Rich of Rich Tomorrow, signing out. Subscribe.